Oh boy, I sure do love playing this on my definitely real and not emulated Nintendo. Super Mario Bros. Was a pretty big deal. To say that it had a big influence on video games would be completely accurate. But today, I got uniquely obsessed with one particular iconic mechanic of the Super Mario series. Have you ever thought about how odd Mario's main method of attack is in this series? To deal with Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Lakitus, and all other manner of ne'er-do-wells, he jumps on their heads. Now, jumping on enemies' heads has become such an iconic video game move that most of us don't even think about it anymore, but it is kind of an odd choice. These roving hooligans can cause you instant death if you touch them from any other direction, not to mention there are plenty of other living things you can't jump on, and the fact that Mario has an attack in the form of fireballs, why is this all a thing? Here's the deal. Super Mario Bros. Is not a fighting game built around defeating enemies. It is a platformer, duh. The enemies are not foes, they are obstacles with another set of paint. Don't suppose that's why you can bounce off of them, eh? This mechanic, like most of the game, is an example of cleverly designing around technology constraints. It originally came out on the NES, remember, which had only 8 inputs total on its controllers. Out of this arrangement, Super Mario Bros. 1 only really uses 6. Left, right, up, down, A, B. They're very constrained and need to do a lot with a little. This is already seen in his fireball attack, which doesn't have its own dedicated button, but uses the run button. Just the same, it builds your main method of trouncing fools into the core gameplay loop. Jumping around. This is also a very clever use of contrasting motion design. The enemies can hurt you on the x-axis, they spend most of their time moving along, while you can hurt them on the y-axis, which you spend a lot of time in. Given Mario's insane vertical, you're encouraged to make liberal use of. This also gives water levels more personality. In a place without as much clear distinction between horizontal and vertical axes, you can't jump on the enemies. I also learned, while getting footage for this section, that apparently bloopers can't hurt you either if you stay on the ground. Neat, I didn't know that. But back to the ground level design. With enemies actually being obstacles, they contrast the other major thing you whack in this game, the blocks. You break blocks from underneath, and crack skulls from above. Do Goombas even have skulls? Super Mario Bros. Is not the first game to involve bouncing off the top of enemies to defeat them. Nor was it Mario's first appearance in Donkey Kong, where you don't jump on things for points, you jump over them. The first game to do this was the 1982 video game Joust, predating Mario Bros. By 3 years. In Joust, you fly around on an ostrich. Yeah, sure, that makes sense, I guess. Fighting off waves of buzzard cavalry, and when you collide, whomever's higher up wins, and the loser goes poof. But here's the issue. I don't think Super Mario Bros. Was inspired by Joust, like, at all. I have said Mario's not a fighting game, while Joust very much is. Apart from the combative nature of the game, it's also named after a very violent sport, but I digress. No, I think this video game mechanic has different roots. This is just my theory. I can't find anything to confirm or deny it, but I am confident in this. Jumping on their heads comes from pinball. Yes, that pinball. Hear me out here. While Super Mario Bros. Was released on the NES, a home console, it has very recent roots in arcade gaming. After all, the Mario installment immediately preceding it by only 2 years was an arcade game, and it still has a lot of the hallmarks of an arcade game built into it. An in-game score that affects nothing other than being a big number, because arcade gamers love score. A timer that has no reason to be there other than to put pressure on players. It's a very arcadey kinda game. And video arcades are the descendant of pinball arcades. What does pinball want you to do? Bounce your pinball off the obstacles in the longest combo you can manage to maximize your score, and oh, would you look at that, the more enemies you bounce off of before hitting the ground, the more points you get each time. That's very interesting, isn't it? Of course, home video game systems proliferated, and so did jumping on their heads. In no small part, of course, due to the Mario series remaining a top seller to this day. So it would be a common mechanic by default, to the point where not jumping on enemies' heads becomes a subversion rather than an assumption. My favorite example of this is from one of my favorite games, period, Hollow Knight. On the surface, it has a lot of visual cues that are similar to Super Mario. You control a little guy with an impressive vertical leap and navigate through a colorful world filled with baddies, except this time, you have a sword. The very first enemy you encounter is a crawlid, a little potato bug thing, and you can't jump on their backs. Earlier versions had smooth shells, but then Team Cherry was like, "Oh geez, playtesters are gonna jump on their backs. We gotta show people he can't do that." Right? What am I doing? So, the crawlid design got spikier and spikier in each iteration to say, hey, don't jump on this. You ain't Mario. You are not that guy. So, that's a fun little story about how a little home game, inspired by arcades, became the most iconic mechanic in gaming. I have just one issue with this, though. Jumping on things' heads works in real life. You ever dive into a living thing from above? I mean, geez man, Mario's coming flying down from like 15 feet. That doesn't need to be mechanic, that'll kill anything in real life. If anything, gritty realism should have more jumping on things' heads.